It's full-time Devils. It's time for another huge debate. Now, at the time of recording this, HENRIKH MKHITARYAN is still missing, and not many people exactly know what's going on with him. So I've got Dave, Greg from Squawka and Stephen Howson here to talk me through it. Right, let's talk. Let's start by talking about what he was like last season in Germany, because there's a few United fans who aren't really that fussed that we're not seeing him because of how disappointing he was in the derby. Dave, tell the people watching at home just how good he was last year in Germany.
Well, he was exceptional. He was one of the best players in the Bundesliga, 100%. His relationship with Aubameyang and Marco Reus made up one of the most devastating front threes in world football. His ability to, create chances and get behind teams is absolutely awesome. It's something United have been crying out for. Someone to take the ball in the final third, take people on and, cross the ball and get it into the box for Zlatan. It's something that United need, and Mkhitaryan can provide this. He's good from set pieces. He registered 3 assists from corners, something, again, that United have been lacking a bit. A lot of corners against Burnley. Didn't score any goals off that. So, again, he's going to upgrade that. And I just feel like it will click with him, Rashford, or potentially someone like Anthony Martial on the other side. He's just such a fluid forward, and his close control is so good. And he's a player that I really want to see. Arguably, I was even more excited than the Pogba signing when Mkhitaryan signed for Manchester United from having watched him a lot last season. So he's just a player that can do everything. Score, he's so two-footed as well. He's so good on his left, so good on his right, good from outside the area. He is the perfect player, but it just seems like potentially it takes a little bit of time for him to adjust to leagues. It was the same thing at Borussia Dortmund. He was signed to replace Mario Götze, and it took him a good season and a half, and he actually started to play his best football when he was forced out right on the right wing, not at number 10. So I think it's just a thing where Mkhitaryan needs a bit of time and space, and as soon as he's in this United team, he'll explode.
That's a very interesting point that you made there. I didn't know that he had a similar position that he's got now at Man United that he did at the start of Dortmund. It took him a while, settled in, and then he became a great player there. Greg, what attributes did he show last season while he was there at Dortmund?
He's just so good on and off the ball. Like his movement of space to kind of make that front three click for Dortmund was very, very good. But he was also very good on the ball, dribbling past people. And he's a danger man, whether he's the man getting the final ball or whether he's the man making the final ball. I think he was involved in 49 goals last year for Dortmund in all competitions, and a lot of them he was scoring them as well as creating them. So yeah, he's a real handful. And I've got to say for people that haven't watched him in the Bundesliga, because I know the Bundesliga is still a bit of a niche league for a lot of people, people that aren't that fussed, they honestly don't know what they're missing. Like Mkhitaryan is one of the most United signings United have made in a long time. If he comes good, he will be exactly what fans are crying out for, down the wing or through the hole.
I think that's what it is as well. I mean, when I'm walking about the ground on match days, there's a lot of sort of older fans really who aren't really too fussed that he's not in the team because of how he's played and the few times that he's appeared this season. But a lot of the younger ones online and stuff who have obviously seen a bit more of German football, they all seem to rave about him. Howson, are you in the same boat?
I'm not in a boat, mate. Don't like the boat. Don't like boats. Don't like the water.
Right, well, instead of getting seasick, tell me about Mkhitaryan. Did he show enough last season to suggest that he should be in the first team Man United this year?
Are you joking? He's shown enough last season to be the best player at the club. I think what we've seen in the little cameos that we saw a little bit of him against Wigan, we saw a little bit of him against Hull. That's enough for me to be excited about what we've got on our hands. But if the guy doesn't play, and Dave said he had a settling in period at Dortmund, he was being played still when he was settling in at Dortmund. That's the key difference here. You can't settle in somewhere when you're not being played. It must just be driving him absolutely insane. The Europa League looks like it might be an opportunity for him to get minutes, but if he doesn't get minutes, you're not going to settle in, and he's just going to be another complete waste. But he's absolutely good enough to be in the starting 11. Christ, he's good enough to be our best player, honestly.
I mean, it seems like everyone who did see him play last season quite a lot in the Bundesliga does rave about him and does think he's great. But do you think that maybe the expectations are a little bit too high since he's come into a new league? It was a struggle for him in Germany. It's a struggle for him in England. Do you think the expectations are a little bit too high, Greg?
Maybe, but I don't. The idea that there is that he's overrated, but I don't think he's overrated at all. Personally, I think if he doesn't make it United, it'd be far too early to write him off. I mean, even look at Kagawa. He came from Dortmund United, and he's back there now, creating chances, scoring goals. Some players, it's the team they go into rather than their quality, and I think. I mean, Dave's right. He did struggle at first at Dortmund, but that's also partly down to the man management. He was much better under Tuchel because Tuchel put his arm around him a bit, and I think Klopp was not distant because we all see how Klopp kind of engage with his players, but he's a bit more kind of like lack of a better word, bantery, I guess. And I don't think he clicked too well with that. But he is fantastic. And you look at all the best attacks in the Premier League at the moment. They're all really fluid. They're all changing position, like Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal. And he's a player like that for Dortmund, and he could be that for United, bringing the kind of movement, the fluidity. And that's going to help players like Paul Pogba as well. The issue is that he's a player who's become used to playing in a system. And United, I still don't think under Mourinho, United have got a system. It's all a bit too pragmatic, all a bit too reliant on individuals. And I think once there's a blend and there's that rhythm, Mkhitaryan will find his feet better. But I agree with Howson, he's got to play as well. Absolutely got to play.
That's interesting what you said there about Kagawa, was good in Dortmund, then came to United, couldn't quite cut it in the Premier League, went back there and is performing well now. So maybe it suggests that, I think that it's pretty much a given that the Premier League, in terms of overall quality, is better than the Bundesliga. So do you think that it is a massive struggle for players like Mkhitaryan to come and impress due to the quality of the league, Dave?
I don't think so. No, I think the Bundesliga is an improving league, and it has been over the last 5-6 years. It's going to compete with the Premier League in years to come by, just because of their ownership and how they coach young players, how they coach young coaches. But Mkhitaryan, his record there was excellent last season: 11 goals in the league, 15 assists. That was the most of any player in the Bundesliga. But I think another underrated part of Mkhitaryan's game is his ability to defend. And that's something that Mourinho absolutely loves, is a winger that can defend and a winger that can press at the right time. One of the greatest examples of his ability to press was away at Wolfsburg last season, where he caught out Gilavogi on the ball in defensive midfield and, nicked the ball, one pass and it's a goal. And that's what Mkhitaryan can do, and that will help Man United. I think United need to get the first goal in games. It was similar to under Louis van Gaal. They get the first goal, the confidence comes back and they start believing in themselves. And that's the same with Manchester United. And if that space can be opened up, Mkhitaryan is so quick, and his timing is absolutely perfect. He's so good at being the support player. For example, if Aubameyang had broken through the line being played through, it was always Mkhitaryan that was next to him, all for the tap-in. And that's something that United kind of need if they've got players like Rashford, Anthony Martial that are very quick. Zlatan isn't going to keep up with them. So having someone Mkhitaryan that has that pace in abundance and the composure, it just upgrades the United attack instantly. And as soon as he's in the side, the better for absolutely everyone.
Howson, the way that people are going on about Mkhitaryan at the minute is suggesting that as soon as he comes back in the team, then we're just going to look better straight away just because of the type of player that he is. Do you think the expectations are a little bit too high for him for when he does eventually, hopefully, come back into the team?
Yeah, he's clearly not been getting played because something's not quite right with him. So to expect him just to bounce in like Superman's probably inaccurate. And I want to go back to what you mentioned about Kagawa earlier as well, because I don't think Kagawa was that bad for Manchester United. Again, he just didn't get played. When he got a consistent run of games, he was absolutely magic. One of the best first touches I've ever seen at Old Trafford was Kagawa. He was a wonderful player, but we was trying to shoehorn him and Rooney into the same team, and it should have been him or Rooney that was getting played. So I think the same thing might happen with Mkhitaryan. It might come down to Mkhitaryan or Mata, and if Mourinho knows Mata more, it could end up being that he chooses him over Mkhitaryan. We can't expect him to come in and just instantly perform at the level that he was performing in a settled, very good team last season at Dortmund, because we're not a settled team and we're not performing to the best of our abilities. He could help you get there, but I don't think you can put it all on his shoulders. It's a team effort, it's a collective effort. He just needs to start getting minutes and it'll come.
I think Howson's spot on, but I just want to take you back to the idea of the Premier League being better than the Bundesliga. I don't think it's better. I think it's just different. And I think, again, that's what we saw with Kagawa. Like, Kagawa would take up space in the final third that the Premier League players weren't even looking for. I think it's just a totally different way of attacking in some ways. I think Mourinho even said that himself in the comments, like, different attackers go to different leagues and they often struggle more than defenders to kind of get a grip of the differences in how teams come at each other. And I think that's definitely true of players coming from the Bundesliga, definitely.
Maybe that's just me being an ignorant Englishman then. So sorry to any Germans watching. Bundesliga is obviously one of the top leagues in Europe. Right, let's talk about Jose Mourinho's attitude towards Mkhitaryan then. I mean, he's gone on this big sort of spiel really about him saying that it takes players time to get ready for the Premier League and for them to get games, but we're not seeing him at all. Do you think that it's a case of maybe Jose Mourinho just doesn't rate him that much, Howson?
I don't think you should be reading too much into what's going out publicly in press conferences and stuff. I say it all the time. Don't believe anything that managers, agents or players say in press conferences, because there's always a second agenda about what's being said and what they're trying to get out there. What they say in a press conference might be entirely different to what they're saying in the dressing room when they walk back in and speak to the players. I mean, look at Rui Faria on Saturday. He came out and he said he thought the referee had a fantastic game. He must be the only person, including Mark Clattenburg's mum, who thought he had a good game on Saturday, because he didn't. So anything that a manager says or anything like that, don't pay too much attention to it. Watch what they do in terms of actions. If Mourinho starts giving him minutes, then that'll tell you more than what his mouth says.
So, Statman Dave, obviously Jose said that it's going to take him a while to get ready for the Premier League, but the Armenia manager, interestingly enough, has said that Mkhitaryan himself doesn't have a clue what Jose Mourinho's on about, and he's fit and ready to play. So what do you think? Where do you think Jose stands on him?
I think it's about management, isn't it? I think he probably did see that he took a bit of time to adjust to the Bundesliga, and he's adjusting to the life in England. That's very different to life in Germany. It's a completely different makeup of what you do day to day. So it will just take time, and I think Mourinho's playing it the right way. He's defending him. He's saying that Mkhitaryan isn't ready. You know, the level of performance against Manchester City that we'll touch on soon wasn't good enough, and those types of performances can't go. So maybe in training the intensity isn't quite there, and that's fine for a manager to do that. He just needs to release them at the right time, and I think that is right now. This United team is crying out for a creative attacking midfielder. Mkhitaryan is that man. So I think Mourinho has played it well so far and let him get adjusted, but now it's time to play his cards. Now it's time to get the ace out.
And Greg, what about you then? Do you think that there's a reason? Well, what do you think the reason is that he's not getting games so far for Jose?
It's a difficult one to say because he could either be the new Andre Schürrle or he could be the new Willian. Both of those players, like Mourinho, was a little bit he was a bit cautious on bringing them into his team at first at Chelsea. And I think Mourinho's got this habit of when he's presented with a new player and he doesn't quite have the force of personality or the character he's looking for to fit into this kind of like, self-sufficient, almost like warrior mentality of the players that he really does trust at teams. He tends to kind of get players that are a bit more sensitive, a bit more distant from that clique. He almost sends the boot camp. He breaks them down. He'll put them into loads of adversarial situations to see how they react. He'll bench them unexpectedly. He'll sub them off unexpectedly. He'll criticize them in the press even. I think that was in the Miguel Torres book about him, actually talking about how he does it. He tries to break players down to build them back up again, which is a really risky strategy if that is what he's doing with Mkhitaryan, because Mkhitaryan is quite a sensitive soul. He's quite an emotional guy. He definitely needs a very careful approach to management. As I said earlier, Tuchel got the best out of him partly, not just because he got used to the Bundesliga, but because he kind of was aware of his fragility to some extent, and he looked after him. And he was rewarded by his best season so far as a senior professional. So Mourinho's got to be careful. I mean, Mourinho isn't just a tactician. Everyone talks about his tactical stuff, but I think Mourinho's strongest suit is his psychology and how he deals with players on a one-to-one level. And in the past, he's shown that when a player doesn't quite fit the profile he wants, he can kind of discard them. That's why he's got such a high level of wastage in his transfer policy over the past few years. But at the same time, if the player's good enough, surely Mourinho's got the nous, he's got the intelligence to deal with them in the way they need to be dealt with. And I think Mkhitaryan is one player who needs that special attention in order to get the best out of him and get him to settle quickly. Because otherwise, United will be missing out on a really great footballer.
I think one of the reasons as well that maybe he isn't playing is because what we've really seen in the Premier League so far, that game against Manchester City was an awful performance, a genuinely dreadful performance. Howson, do you think that was completely out of character for him, the way he played that day?
Yeah, it was weird. Nothing come off. I mean, from what I have seen of him as a player that likes to run with the ball, he's got very good close control, he can beat a man. I don't think he's as explosive as, say, like a Rashford or a Marshall with the ball, but he's someone that's got a real classiness to the way he plays the game, and he just seemed to have no touch. It was like his boots was on the wrong feet. He just, everything he seemed to try didn't come off. He didn't seem up for it. Do you know what it looked like? He had the flu or something. He just didn't look completely on it whatsoever. But by the same rule, neither did Jesse Lingard. And a couple of weeks later, Jesse Lingard's back in the team and everything's happy days. Mkhitaryan was gone and never to be seen again, it seems. So it's a strange one. Only Mourinho and all the training staff know what's going on with him at the training ground. But I'd be amazed if he doesn't get some minutes very soon.
Yeah, that's a really good point there about Jesse Lingard. I mean, Mkhitaryan getting dragged off at half-time in the Manchester derby. Did Lingard go off at half-time in that game as well?
Yeah, I think he did.
Yeah, I remember Lingard going off at half-time as well, and Lingard's back in the team. Where is HENRIKH MKHITARYAN? Dave, talk to me then about that derby game. Do you think that 45 minutes of football is really enough for Jose Mourinho to have been keeping him out of the team for this period of time?
I don't think so, no. But then again, it's that adjustment, and maybe he just wasn't ready. Again, like Howson saying, he just didn't look fit, didn't look ready for it, didn't look up for it. But same with Jess Lingard. And tactically, United got absolutely found out against City, and it was Mourinho's mistake. He was pressing too high in midfield. The problem wasn't out wide. The problem wasn't Jess Lingard and Mkhitaryan pushing two up or not watching their fullbacks. It was in central midfield. It was Fellaini and Paul Pogba that got outdone by those 3/8 of Manchester City. Again, potentially it's Mourinho defending himself and saying, I need to throw this player under the bridge. because maybe he's not ready and I made a massive tactical mistake, because that was the issue. It was Fellaini and Pogba pressing too high and opening up the space in front of the Manchester United back four, not the fullbacks. The fullbacks didn't cause us that much problems. So it's one of those things where potentially Mourinho's made a mistake, potentially it was a mistake in both the tactical selection of Mkhitaryan in that game, but also it was him in central midfield that really cost United. Really, really cost United.
Greg, do you think that derby match is what's playing on Jose's mind, or do you reckon that this is just, well, essentially me talking rubbish?
I don't really talking rubbish. I think it is relevant, but maybe for a different reason. I mean, as I was saying then, Mourinho likes to get a grip of a player that he's not entirely sure of and almost test him to breaking point. And, I mean, maybe he wasn't. Maybe that's reading too much into his past. But he has done it before in how he treats players. And that derby game perhaps was more of what I'm talking about. Maybe, I mean, Mkhitaryan clearly wasn't fit. I was watching the game in the Stretford, and all the guys around me were going, is he drunk? Was he out last night? He didn't look with it at all. But I mean, Mourinho's a manager that often gets a player and he'll throw him in at the deep end, knowing they're not ready, just to see how they act, just to see if they'll sink or swim. And he definitely sunk, and he stunk the place out actually against City. But I agree with Dave, it wasn't really his fault. But Greg Stobart, chief reporter for Squawka, has got a line this week about the Armenian, and he's been told by sources at the club that he's not for sale. He's been putting extra training by himself, going solo. And I think there was a quote that he needs more time to become the top player he can be. So there is apparently still belief in his abilities in the back room. And as I said before, like, is he a Schürrle, is he a Willian? If he becomes a Willian is still one of Chelsea's best players, and Mourinho kind of built him into the Premier League kind of winger these today. So it could yet all go right.
Yeah, I mean, I did see an article as well in The Sun not too long ago suggesting that there's a chance that we could actually be getting rid of him in January, which of course we know is ridiculous for many reasons, one of which it's being The Sun. But another as well, the Squawka thing that you just suggested there, Greg. So that does look like he's going to be staying at the club and being given a chance for this season at least. So Howson, predict the future for HENRIKH MKHITARYAN at Manchester United. Do you think that next season he's going to be one of our top players, best players in the league, or do you think that it could be a bit of a Memphis situation?
I really don't know, because I think we are going to sign more players in the summer, probably players that are attacking players and potentially players that might take up any sort of shirt that he was likely to get. When I look at how we're lining up at the moment, if we play a 4-3-3, he's got that spot on the right-hand side. If we play a 4-2-3-1, he's got that spot on the right-hand side. But if you bring in a winger, then there is no number 10 in the 4-3-3. And if you bring in a winger in a 4-2-3-1, that's going to be a bit more direct than he is. There's potentially a number 10 spot for him there in the middle, but that might be where you see Zlatan deployed next season. That might be where you see Pogba deployed next season. That's probably where you're going to see Mata deployed next season. So, as with a lot of the positions that we've got at the club, there's a lot of competition, but not a lot of clarity about who plays there if everybody's fit and in form. And I think that's a problem as well. This is the problem when you have too many players of similar ability. It's almost better to have really obvious starters and then really obvious reserves, like the likes of Ashley Young and Marouane Fellaini, to come in as your reserves. And even Jesse Lingard. Jesse Lingard's probably not going to win a Ballon d'Or in his career, but he's a perfect replacement to come in because you know what you're going to get from him, and he's going to be happy to sit on the bench, and people aren't pulling their hair out when he doesn't start all the time because they know his role. He knows his place in the pecking order. And when you've got too many players that actually think they're the first in the pecking order, but there's only one space and 5 people going for it, then that can cause friction, that can cause problems, that can cause, undue stress on the players, worrying, am I going to get in the team today? What do I need to do to stay in the team? And then you can have performances like Memphis when he comes on and he's just trying too hard to impress every single minute of the game because he don't feel like he's getting enough opportunity, doesn't have the confidence in his own ability at the moment, and that causes a massive problems. That's why sometimes it is better to have a weaker squad with a better first 11, where I think at the moment we've got a very strong squad with not an obvious first 11. I think that's the issue.
Right, Greg, I'm going to ask you to predict HENRIKH MKHITARYAN's future at Manchester United, and try not to start with the words "I really don't know."
I think Howson's right in a lot of ways. A lot of players don't know where they stand, I think, because of the way that the squad is just a mess. And I mean, if you want to add another name to that list, Antoine Griezmann's apparently going to be the guy we sign next summer, according to some people. So that's going to add even more confusion to it. But I think 4-3-3's got to be the way forward for many ways. And I think if that is what happens, then Mkhitaryan, he's basically in some ways the player that people wish Lingard could be, and that might sound daft, but he's got a lot of Lingard's qualities, but he's just such a better footballer as well. And I think out on the right, playing on the right of a 4-3-3, it's not It's not a number 10 role. It's not a winger. It's somewhere in between. And I personally, I don't think United should play with a number 10. I think the best teams United have haven't had that single focal point of creativity. It's been spread out across the whole team. And I think that's what Mkhitaryan can help to bring to the side. You look at the best attacks in the Premier League. I said it before. You look at Arsenal, you look at Chelsea, you look at Liverpool this season. It's not all built around one playmaker. It's built around a spread of 3 or 4 players, and that's what Mkhitaryan was such a great part of at Dortmund as well. So I mean, that's what United should be aiming for in going forward. And you look at the players they've got: Mata, Rashford, Martial, Lingard. Add a mix of them together with Mkhitaryan. There's so much fluidity, so much movement there. It makes so much sense. And yeah, it's kind of what people have been asking for since the summer, and it just hasn't quite happened yet for whatever reason. Maybe he's not fit enough, maybe he's not ready yet. But that's the kind of arrangement that's going to suit Pogba as well. And I think it's clear now that Rashford's best role is certainly in the middle. He's not a winger. He needs to be playing through the middle. And at 35, Zlatan Ibrahimovic probably shouldn't play in every week anyway. So you're going to rotate a teenager and Zlatan. That makes sense. What you need, though, are guys like Mkhitaryan to just bring it all together. He's got the experience of playing in such a fluid team. So that, for me, if the future's going to be bright, the future's going to be Mkhitaryan on the right of a 4-3-3, making it all happen for Man United.
I would absolutely love to see that. Dave, are you in the same boat? What are you saying?
I think so, yeah. Well, you asked to predict the future, Gaz. So I'm going to go with Mkhitaryan this season, 8 assists and 8 goals in all competitions. I think it'll be a slow start.
Okay, I like this. It's specific. Right, go on, tell me.
He's going to be directly involved in exactly 16 Manchester United goals in all competitions. But I think it'll be next season is when it'll kick on. And I really like the sounding of Marcus Rashford through the middle, Anthony Martial on the left, and Mkhitaryan on the right of a front three. That has pace, that has power, that has explosivity, creativity, that has absolutely everything you want in a modern day front three. So that's what I expect, and I expect next season, hitting 20 assists in all competitions, because that is the quality of player. He just needs that time, needs that adjustment period, and then he will absolutely explode.
You're getting me all excited for next season now. We're in November here. Anything could happen this year. We'll never know. But good to get your opinions in anyway today, guys. Go and give the guys all a follow on Twitter. Make sure you give us comments below as well. Talk to me about HENRIKH MKHITARYAN. What can you see his Manchester United future being? And do you think he should be in this team straight away? Guys, thank you very much for joining me today. I've been Gaz on Full Time Devils. See you next time. Laters.